technician, strap in.
Straight Talk with Matt Hasley. Every Monday and Friday, 9 p.m. Central Time. Only on Armed Radio Global.
All kinds of different stories. You got to talk about P-Gate, you want to call it. That's what they named it. I didn't name it. I'm sorry. And then President Obama has his last speech, his goodbye speech, as you want to call it. And did you see the national championship game? If you did, you saw they call him Jacked Ref. Talk a little bit about him. And then we got, yes, it's that time of the year again. Girl Scout cookies are out. And Monopoly. I don't know if I can make the whole night. My sinuses, I'm sick now. My daughter went back to school. She left her cold with us. Got to thank her. It's been bothering me all day, but I'm going to try to get through this. So, bear with me if you hear me sneezing or something like that. But starting out the show, we had the other night, Monday night, I think it was, we had the national championship game between Alabama and Clemson. What a great game. Phenomenal game. You know, come down to last play, really, of the game. And Clemson scores a touchdown by a pass from the 1 yard line. I mean, it was just with 1 second left to go on the clock. I mean, what a crazy game. They took the lead. And like in a minute and a half, they lost the lead again. I was like, oh, God. You know, after, you know, they're all jacked up because they took the lead, and then all of a sudden right back to losing the lead again. And then in a little over 2 minutes, it was like just share over 2 minutes, they drove the ball downfield and scored with 1 second left to go. What a way to end the game. You got to give credit, hats off to Clemson, you know, to win the way they did. Everybody picked Alabama to win it. Said Clemson didn't have a chance. But the thing that really stood out was the referee. Everybody's they call him Jacked Ref, and Twitter went nuts over it. You know, you think about this guy is in phenomenal shape. They were talking about reminds his name is Mike DeFee. He kind of reminds you of you see the NFL referee Ed Hockley. Ed Hockley's one that is all ripped and looks like they got the shirts on too small. But they were interviewing him on ESPN today, and he's like 5'10", 212, he says. And he says that his shirt is a 2X. And the only thing he did was he tapered it on the side so it didn't look like he was wearing a dress, and shortened the sleeves so they weren't so long. But I would think he drew them in just a little bit, make them tight. But, I mean, he's a ripped guy. But the tweets were going out, and it was like, it says, has this ref in the national championship game been tested for HGH? It says, dude makes Ed Hockley look small. And then it says, you see the arms in this national championship game? What a beefcake. Somebody check his shirt for a rip in that after that first down signal. Yeah, he says, he said, somebody posted, I thought it was kind of comical. Not sure how that ref got past security with those guns attached to his body. And then somebody else posted it. That ref is huge. So he says ref might be putting one of them young bucks on their neck if they get out of line. It says has New Year's resolution to get some guns like this ref. That was somebody posted up there. Then they had a picture of somebody posted a picture of SpongeBob with his anchor arms. I thought that was good, but you got to give it to credit to the guy. He worked for it. He did a lot of working out to get that big. And the guy's like what, almost 50 years old, so that's pretty impressive. I'm not exactly sure how old he is, but it says, it was closest game I've seen. I didn't see anything really, really outstanding or that caused anybody to, call foul. Saying that, oh, they got ripped off or something like that. But I mean, sure, there's always going to be something. The only thing I didn't think is when they called the pass interference in the end zone, I don't think it actually was in the end zone, but I don't think it would have made a difference. It would have been a spot at the one anyway. So, yeah, it was, I think it was placed in the right spot. I just think that it was one of those games. In the last 2 years, they've had, the best national championship games. So I thought it was pretty cool. You can't ask for any better game like that. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for two best teams to go at it, be close. Because, most of the other playoff games, you want to call them bowl games, we're not this close. We're not this much competition involved. You see... even with the NFL games haven't been this close. They have going on this weekend. We have going from to the divisional series games. You got Seahawks playing Atlanta. They're on Fox. They're giving Atlanta. This is I guess Bing is somehow, I don't know where they get that from MSN. But it's they're giving a 73% chance that Atlanta will win that game. And you got Houston, Texas going to see the Patriots. They're on CBS that Saturday night, which should be the 14th. Correct. Yep. And that's at 7:15 Central Time, and that will be. They got 83% chance that. The Patriots will win that game. And then Sunday, you got the Steelers are going to play Kansas City. And that's at just 12:05. It's on NBC. They give 63% chance that the Chiefs will win that game. And then you got Green Bay playing Dallas at 3:40, which will be probably one of the biggest games. And that's really a coin toss. They say 51% chance Dallas, but you could flip a coin on this one. I think it could go really either way. Aaron Rodgers has been hot lately. So I wouldn't be surprised, with it, the amount of experience he has. In playoffs, he's won a Super Bowl. That they just dominate Dallas. Dallas hadn't been there before. You got Dak Prescott, great quarterback, and you got Ezekiel Elliott, who was just recently in a car accident, which he tweeted back. He says, "I've been hit harder on the," referencing on the field. So he had no injuries from the car accident, luckily. But quite a scare for Cowboy fans. But they, they could easily lose that game because they don't have any experience. They just going to have to do is make sure that they get a lead and keep a lead, and use Ezekiel Elliott to run it down Green Bay's throat. I mean, that's the thing. I'd love to see Dallas win. I'd love to see them win. I'm not a Packers fan by any chance. I'm a Bears fan, so I'm a Bears fan and anybody that plays against Green Bay. So, got a lot of friends of mine that are Green Bay fans, and they can't. Friends can't always be perfect. So, but no, they're apparently in the meetings they're talking about that NFL has cleared the way. And let me see if I get the article here, but it says NFL has cleared the way for Raiders' path to move to Vegas. I mean, how irritating that's got to be a fan. So just as it seemed the San Diego Chargers were destined to join the Rams in Los Angeles, there's more information coming out that might not be inevitable. More than that, at least one report is now suggesting that the NFL is meeting Wednesday in an attempt to clear a path for the Oakland Raiders to move to Vegas. This meeting is apparently under the pretext that there's more hope in salvaging the Chargers' stay in San Francisco than keeping the Raiders in Northern California. So, it says, said one source, this is from Jim Trotter at NFL, the league views San Diego salvageable, Oakland is not. Hence, tomorrow's meeting a clear path for Raiders to move to Vegas. It says, you think about, that would tick me off if I was a Raiders fan. So, what they're going to spend, if they go to Vegas, there'll be a huge market for them out there. It's going to be big bucks. I don't know why they haven't had, with as big as Las Vegas is, and which as much money is there, how they haven't had one already. I'm sure it had a lot to do with the gambling involved. But apparently that's, being pushed aside. And also they had, with the Raiders, this is another shocking report, is that Raiders are going to make a coaching change after a 12-4 season. It says the Oakland Raiders had a remarkable season. Offensively, it ranked 7th in points scored and 6th in total yards. Apparently, offensive coordinator Billy Musgrave had plenty to do with Oakland's resurgence, but he won't be back with the team in 2017. According to Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, the Raiders will let Musgrove contract expire, allowing him to leave the team. So, in his place, the Raiders are expected to promote quarterback coach Todd Downing to offensive coordinator for the 2017 season. Says it's a curious change for Jack Del Rio and the Raiders, but considering Musgrave's contract was expiring, it's not completely shocking. Yes, the Raiders were great on offense this season, but Downing played a part in that too, helping develop Derek Carr into an MPV candidate. So, the ranking in teams in 2016. So if you look at the graph here, it says total points in 2016, and it tells you that it doesn't mean a lot because, one, yes, some it does, but like the Atlanta Falcons are leading with 540. New Orleans Saints did make the playoffs; they're 469. You got New England Patriots at 441, Green Bay's at 432, Cowboys at 421. Pittsburgh at 399, who made the playoffs, and Kansas City Chiefs at 389. So, yeah, it's putting up points is good, but not completely. What you have to do. You got to win games. No matter how many points you score, a 1 point's a win. So, in golf news, we had the Web.com tour had their opener, and talk about miserable conditions. They actually went. They had 20 to 40 mile an hour winds in their. Some of the rounds had to be suspended. So it says, but Kyle Thompson was the last man standing. They call it. He at the season opener Web.com tour, holding on to 2-shot victory in the windswept Bahamas Great Exuma Classic. Thompson closed with 3 straight rounds of 70 to post 200 for the week, including a 6-foot par save on the final hole to remain 2 shots clear of Nicholas Thompson. It says, and Andrew Young. Thompson had a chance to tie with an eagle on par 18, or par 5 18th, but he failed to hole a wedge shot from 104 yards. So, they were talking about, with the amount of winds that they had, they said players faced winds that blew from 20 to 40 miles an hour through the week. And the 36-hole cut fell at 11 over, which marked a new tour record. Former U.S. Amateur runner-up Corey Connors tied for 5th, had 4 over, while PGA Tour veterans Sam Saunders tied for 8th, and Chesson Hadley tied for 11th, and Eric Compton were tied for 17th, were further out the pace. But 40 mile an hour winds, they showed that it was just, you couldn't, you get to where you can't control the ball. Problem is, you get the ball and it starts to, it'll blow it off the greens when you start getting up to that high winds. They had apparently, I had laughed at this story. Well, Tiger texted Rory at like 4:30 in the morning and says, "I'm uplifting. What are you doing?" Well, it's apparently irritating Rory's. It says McIlroy also shared he receives early warning texts from Woods, who McIlroy said sometimes hits the gym as early as 4 to combat insomnia. It all adds up with a lifestyle that McIlroy, who is set to marry fiancée Erica Stoll this spring, can't envision for himself. So they said his fiancée is not real happy with it. Getting these texts at 4. Well, just mute your phone so you don't have to hear it. But yeah, it's I don't know, getting a text at 4 a.m. from Tiger. That just tells you how committed he is for his comeback. I'd love to see him do it. I think it's going to help the golf. They have these places called Top Golf, which is pretty cool. It turns like golf into like a bar area where you have, you got lights, music, a bar atmosphere, food, good food, everything. And it's really cool, and it's all in like destination cities. I think that's a way to bring people to the game, give them a little taste of the game where it's not, where they can hit balls and hit at targets and do, fun, active games, different things. I think that's really a neat thing to do. You got to expand the interest in the game, and that's the only ways to do it. I see a lot of them with these, video screens where they go there and for people to play. That's cool, but yeah, I'd rather, I've done a few of those, but I haven't done that in years, but they're still pretty cool. We had last night, we had President Obama give his going away speech. Went on for quite a while. It was just I was like, wow. I was like, I don't know what, on a goodbye speech like that, you think it would keep it down to like 5 or 10 minutes. This thing went on for about an hour. It was ridiculous. I mean, and the thing is, people immediately jump on quotes that he makes. Like, apparently he made a quote that no terrorist attacks since he's been president. And I'm like, Benghazi, San Bernardino, Orlando. Really, you might even be able to consider Fort Lauderdale. So I don't know if he considers those terrorists. Just because you sit there and say, "Oh no, they're not terrorists," doesn't mean they're not. So, before I got out of sports, I wanted to talk about Derrick Rose. What was up with him? Former Bulls. He goes AWOL. Disappears. Apparently returned to the Knicks Tuesday after unexcused absence. They saw him miss a dispiriting loss to the New Orleans Pelicans. Raised question about a future with the Big Apple. Knicks head coach Jeff Hornacek told reporters they had intended to return to the point guard to New York's starting lineup if he's in the right mental state. It seemed a curious caveat at the time, but according to multiple reports, the former MVP was so distraught earlier this week that he considered walking away from the game. Says it is a family issue, Rose would explain after turning up for work. It's nothing to do with the team or basketball. That's the first time I ever felt that emotionally and had to be with my family. Rose, according to two independent sources who spoke with the Daily News on the condition of anonymity, was such an emotional wreck Monday afternoon that his only solution was to abruptly leave the Knicks to be with his mother and his son. In fact, Rose's state of mind was such that for a time he talked about walking away from basketball for an extended period of time to clear his mind. In trying and failing to explain, he never took the time to contact the Knicks on Monday. Rose hinted at emotional state by saying, "I didn't want to take any calls at the time. I needed that space to myself, and I needed to be around my mom." So, I don't know whatever happened there, but he apparently, now that he's back, he wants, and this is it, Derrick Rose thought about retiring, now thinking about a max contract. So, whether he can get back to his form that he had, when he was the MVP of the league, I don't know. I mean, he's too injury prone. Hopefully, he can keep healthy. That's why the Bulls got rid of him, and I don't blame him. Finally, you just got to do is say one thing, or hey, take your chances and trade him, and hopefully, you get something for him. I'm hoping the Bulls are getting on the right track. Boy, they've been just terrible. They're 19 and 20 or 19 and 21 this season. Just not looking real hot. They're just not gelling together. So they had, but with all the stuff going on, with your what they call P-Gate, apparently they had the main MSN, CNN, and BuzzFeed apparently got played. And 4chan claims to have fabricated an anti-Trump report as a hoax. Says, and the story is getting more surreal by the minute. A post on 4chan now claims that the infamous golden shower scene in the unverified 35-page dossier allegedly compiled by a British intelligence officer, was a hoax and fabricated by a member of the chat board as fan fiction, then sent to Rick Wilson, who proceeded to send it to the CIA, which then put it in their official classified intelligence report on the election. It says, here is 4chan explanation of how the story came to light. It says, mailed fan fiction to anti-Trump pundit Rick Wilson about Trump making people piss on a bed Obama slept in. He thought it was real and gave it to the CIA. The Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America put it in their official classified intelligence report on Russian involvement in the election. Donald Trump and Obama both read this poll. It says, fan fiction, the CIA has concluded that the Russian plans to blackmail Trump with this story we made up. Just let that sink in, what we have become. And it says, think about that. It says they realize its own power level and it F's up big time. So what they did was they sat there and went on, and this thing went out, and it went to CNN, it went to BuzzFeed, and BuzzFeed, went ahead and it says decided to publish a series of memos that have been floating around for months, alleging all kinds of terrible things about Donald Trump. Some of those terrible allegations have to do with efforts to influence the American elections and Trump. Some of them have to do with Trump's personal sexual conduct. Readers of the newspaper both know well not to include me among Trump supporters. And this is coming from John Podhoretz. Supporters, but the surrealist of what BuzzFeed has done here, so beyond the bounds of what is even remotely acceptable, it should compel even the most outraged by Trump political excesses to come to his defense, and to the defense of a few other people mentioned in these papers whose names are also dragged into the mud. It says, there is literally no evidence on offer in these memos or from BuzzFeed that any single sentence in the document is factual or true. What's more, we know most major news organizations in America have seen them, and despite their well-known institutional apathy toward Trump, have chosen not to publish them or even make reference to them in an effort to substantiate their charges had failed. It said BuzzFeed tells us that and that was this Podhoretz, that the document was prepared for political opponents of Trump by a person who is understood to be a former British intelligence agency. Indeed, the memos are designed to read as though they were cables sent from the field office or to the home office, and they should set off a bull detector of every rational person who reads them. I've been a newspaper and magazine editor for 31 years, Podhoretz says, and like many in his profession, have had occasion over the course of 4 decades to work with people linked to intelligence agencies, both domestic and foreign, when they're retailing stories injurious to one another for or politician or cause. It says, in his experience, there is no source of whom you need to be more skeptical and whose information you need to verify to the letter before you can even begin to think of publishing it, that an intelligence source. So, I mean, for them to sit there and make this report, and CNN now is panicking. You had an article, and I watched the video where CNN was just like stuttering all over themselves. Wolf Blitzer just standing there looking at, I think it's Jake Tapper from CNN, because they were involved with this report, and they would more than anything love to have it, be true. I mean, they're just like looking for a reason to jump on this. they had, it said apparently one of these Russian tech experts named in the report, in the Trump report, says he was never contacted. It says a Russian venture capitalist and tech expert whose name and company are mentioned in the now notorious document alleging connections between Donald Trump campaign and Russian hackers says no intelligence officers had ever contacted him about the accusations, which he says are false. So, it said BuzzFeed posted 35 pages of it. So, I mean, you know, they talk about fake news. You know, you think about that. This article comes out, and I mean, people were just running with it on Facebook. I mean, you're sitting there, and I was laughing because people were sitting there talking about this on Facebook about, oh my God, he's got, you know, got hookers peeing on beds where Obama slept because he hates him that much. And I said, are you serious? You know, I'm like, you really think that that's a serious story? But yeah, Jake Tapper was in panic mode, and they should be the way they talked about it. So that's going to die off quickly. But you got, I got an article here, and you look at it, and let me see if I can find it. I just had it open. It's at the end. It was talking about Barack Obama's farewell speech, and it says at the very bottom, it says 8 days, 13 hours, 26 minutes, and 50, 49, 48. You know, it's counting down his days until Trump is sworn in. But, yeah, he went on and on and on to, you know, talk about himself and his legacy and everything like that. So, you know, everybody talked about how well, you know, everything is, and how I just, it'll be interesting to see how much support, you know, Donald Trump's going to get from people around. I mean, you know, sooner or later you're just going to have to do is move on. I don't know if the liberals are going to be able to do it, but we'll see. In other news, we had apparently, I don't know why they do this, but commuters. God, I can't even say it. Commuters in 60 cities stripped to their underwear for no pants subway ride 2017. Apparently, New York. That was the 9th. It was on Monday. Commuter train riders in cities in New York, London, Berlin, Los Angeles, and Chicago publicly shed their trousers for an annual no-pants subway ride. I'm sorry. No thanks. I'm like, are you kidding me? It says some cities, including Chicago, featured participants facing frigid temperatures without protection of pants, contributing to the lower than usual turnout. The flagship No Pants subway ride in New York featured 7 groups spreading out across 11 subway lines amid windy 22-degree temperatures. So it says, since this is the 16th year we've done it, there's not too much report other than it was awesome time. Yeah, I'm sorry. Nope. I'm not going. No commando here. Yeah. They had, here's an article that came out, and I did want to do is, you know, we're talking about, you know, intelligence sources, and they're talking about, you know, how let me see if I might have, wonder what I did with that one. If I can find the article about it. But it was where Hopefully I didn't close it. Nope, here we go. Nope. It says, talking about the CIA and what the CIA and trust we have in them. All right, here's a great report this guy did, and he's talking about the CIA, but you got to listen to this.
Donald Trump finds himself at odds with the CIA over this Russia hack story, and people are freaking out about it. But is the Donald wrong not to trust the CIA? Well, the record is spotty, to say the least. First, a bit of background. The CIA is claiming that the DNC hack that did so much damage to the Hillary Clinton campaign came from individuals with connections to the Russian government. Of course, Donald Trump has said that he doesn't believe the report, which has led to a lot of frantic claims that it's outrageous for the president-elect to doubt the credibility of the CIA. The main argument coming from pundits and government officials is that the president has to trust the intelligence that comes from the CIA. And the fact that our current president-elect doesn't trust the intelligence is dangerous for America, or something.
This is unprecedented and incredible for a president-elect to say. Number one, disputing what the CIA are saying to their main customer, the president-elect.
But is it so outrageous to doubt the credibility of the CIA? I mean, it's worth remembering that the CIA is a clandestine organization, essentially unaccountable to the American public, that has tortured people illegally, has spent decades undermining democracies around the world, all the while deceiving the American public while spying on our own Congress. Like that time back in 2011 when John Brennan, a longtime CIA operative who now runs the agency, answered a question about CIA drone strikes.
Nearly for the past year, there hasn't been a single collateral death.
Well, that's just flat out wrong. Just a few months before, a CIA drone strike killed 50 people in Pakistan. The strike reportedly hit a tribal meeting of elders that were there to solve a mining dispute. Oops. But perhaps the most brazen lies the CIA has given us in the past few years have been related to the agency's use of torture. The CIA basically lied every single step of the way. Most of this was exposed when the Senate finally released its torture report back in 2014. The central, most important claim was on the effectiveness of the intelligence obtained through torture. For years, the CIA claimed that torture, or enhanced interrogation techniques as they like to call it, led to hard, actionable information that stopped terrorist activity. Well, this claim turned out to be bullshit. The report showed that, in fact, torture yielded no useful information. They were also misleading the public on the kind of torture they were doing. For years, it was believed that the most brutal technique was waterboarding. But it turns out they were also doing things like forced rectal feeding and standing on broken limbs and threatening to rape the prisoner's mother. But it doesn't stop there. While the Senate was preparing the torture report, the CIA was actually spying on the Senate. Of course, at first, the CIA said,
Let me assure you that CIA in no way was spying on the SSCI or the Senate.
Before admitting that they did it and then apologizing for it. I guess it's never too late now to say sorry. So the CIA first started torturing people in secret. Then they admitted they were, but they lied about the effectiveness of that torture. They also lied about the kind of torture they were doing, and then they spied on the people who were investigating them for it. Cool. And this is only from like the past 15 years or so. But the CIA has been lying to the American public for decades. To pick just one example out of many, the former director of the CIA, Richard Helms, was convicted of lying to Congress over the agency's role in the 1973 military coup in Chile, which toppled the democratically elected president Salvador Allende and installed the long dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. Then there was a time in 1982 when Congress passed a law that prohibited the Reagan administration from overthrowing the Sandinista government in Nicaragua. Despite the fact that Congress, the literal representation of the American people, told the government not to overthrow the Sandinistas, the CIA continued covert operations against them for years. The whole thing blew up in the Iran-Contra scandal of 1986. So yeah, it does seem likely that some elements of the Russian state were involved in the DNC hacks, although we've seen very little in the way of actual concrete evidence. But we certainly shouldn't be taking the CIA's word at face value, because if the CIA wore pants, those pants would be on fire.
That article comes from Fusion, so you can see Fusion, their page on Facebook. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, way to look at it. So what I get is where I think it was Jake Clapper when he was talking about the CIA, and he says he was sitting there and he had his hand on his head and they're interviewing him in front of Congress or whatever. They said something to the effect of whether they were spying on Americans or spying on And he was like, as far as I know, no, we have no. And then they find out that there's this huge building, media storage facility where they're recording everything you do. Everything. And, I mean, it's like, how is that not public knowledge? You know? How is it okay? So, getting to that, I saw this article that came out, and it said it was about AT&T. And this might be an older article, but still, just a lot of people, because I never saw it, that document reveals AT&T is spying on Americans for profit, which I kind of figured they were, but this is an article that came back out, and this happened November 11th of 2013. So the telecom giant is doing NSA-style work for law enforcement without a warrant and earning millions of dollars a year from taxpayers. It says, on November 11th, 2013, Victorville, California, sheriff's deputies and a coroner responded to motorcyclist report of human remains outside of town. They identified the partially bleached skull of a child and later discovered the remains of the McStay family who had been missing for the past 3 years. Joseph, 40, his wife Summer, 43, Gianni, 4, and Joseph Jr., 3, had been bludgeoned to death and buried in shallow graves in the desert. Said investigators long suspected Charles Merritt in the family's disappearance. Interviewing him after they went missing, Merritt was McStay's business partner and the last person known to see him alive. Merritt also borrowed $30,000 from McStay to cover a gambling debt. Said a mutual business partner told police none of it was enough to make an arrest. Even after the gravesite discovered and McStay's DNA was found inside Merritt's vehicle, police were far from pinning the quadruple homicide on him until they turned to Project Hemisphere. Hemisphere is a secretive program run by AT&T that searches trillions of call records and analyzes cellular data to determine where a target is located and with whom he speaks and potentially why. It says Merritt was in position to access the cellular tower northeast of the McStay family gravesite on February 6, 2010, 2 days after the family disappeared. An affidavit for his girlfriend call records reports Hemisphere finding PDF. Merritt was arrested almost a year to the date after McStay family remains were discovered and is awaiting trial for murders. In 2013, Hemisphere was revealed by the New York Times and described only within a PowerPoint presentation made by the DEA. The Times described it as a partnership between AT&T and the U.S. government. The Justice Department said it was the essential and prudently deployed counter-narcotics tool. However, AT&T's own documentation, reported here by the Daily Beast, this is the point I broke the story, for the first time shows Hemisphere was used far beyond the war on drugs to include everything from investigations of homicide to Medicaid fraud. It says Hemisphere isn't a partnership, but rather a product AT&T developed, marketed, and sold at a cost of millions of dollars per year to taxpayers. No warrant is required to make use of the company's massive trove of data. According to AT&T documents, only promise from law enforcement not to disclose Hemisphere if an investigation using it becomes public. So these new revelations come as the company seeks to acquire Time Warner. And so this is a dated article here. It says while telecommunication companies are legally obligated to hand over records, AT&T appears to have gone much farther to make the enterprise profitable. According to ACLU Technologies company, policy analyst Christopher Segohoyan, companies have to give data to law enforcement upon request if they have it. AT&T doesn't have to data mine its database to help police come up with new numbers to investigate. So, you know, when you think about that, I've been thinking about your phone tracks everything you do, whether it's for good or for bad. I guarantee you that phone, when you go into Target or Walmart or wherever it is, all of a sudden the next time you open Google, you got targeted ads to you. So, kind of scary to think that you know, that you're that much under, you know, scrutiny everywhere you go. It says this is one, you know, talk about wasted money, and I couldn't believe this when I found this article out. But government gave Brown University $5 million to discover that frat boys drink more than peers. It says Senator Jeff Flake, a Republican from Arizona, revealed that the government gave Brown University $5 million to conduct a research whether or not fraternity brothers drink more than their peers who don't participate in Greek life. Are you kidding me? What does it matter if they did? Why would that have a $5 million price tag on it to give them? You know, I just makes no sense. And what they would have spent $5 million on tracking whether they did or not. Wow, that's just waste. You know, they had, you know, I just, you shake your head at stuff like that. $5 million. And people go, oh, that's not that much. I mean, it's not that much. But just think of what they could do with $5 million. Think how many projects they could have with $5 million, rather than wasting it on some stupid project like that. Yeah. Oh, they also came out and they said Chicago homicides, which were reported last year, are actually higher than the number reported. So the record set of violence in Chicago is even worse than announced, as new evidence shows the city suffered 50 more homicides than the last year's numbers. The city posted decades-high homicide count of 812 in 2016, per the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office. 812. So the discrepancy is largely due to the fact that the county tallies homicides while the police number counts murders. Murders are defined as violent acts subject to criminal prosecution. Homicides, according to medical examiner, include instances when the death of a person comes at the hand of another person. This does not imply that all homicides are murders that would be subject to criminal prosecution. So, it says it rose 54% in 2016 over 2015, when Chicago had only 528 deaths to determine the homicides. So, I mean, just, that's a huge number. We have my tweet deck not updating. There it goes. Now it goes to an update. We have also, kind of switching gears here. We got about 10 minutes left. They have, it's that time of the year. You got their, I don't know what you want to call them, your Girl Scout cookie crack peddler. I don't know. It's like those things are like addictive as ever. Takes you a year to get over them until next year. But apparently, they have new cookies coming out. They got a new s'mores, Girl Scout s'mores cookie, and they they look different. They got 2 different designs. And they're both. It says, why are there 2 bakers? And it says, our crispy graham cookie double dipped in yummy cream icing, finished with scrumptious chocolatey coating. Whoa! This is one more delicious way to support her next adventure. And then it says our new crunchy graham sandwich cookies with creamy, and they're both called s'mores, which is weird. It says creamy chocolate and marshmallowy filling. So, and then you got, of course, you got Thin Mints, peanut butter patties, or in other places they call them tagalongs. You got Caramel Delights and Samoas, which are the coconut ones. Can't handle it. You got Do-si-dos, or another place they call them the peanut butter sandwich. You got the shortbread or trefoils, Savannah Smiles, lemonades, Toffee-tastic, Thanks a Lot, and trios. So you, I'm sure many people will be placing their order with their Girl Scout. So they got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 different styles. So my wife says she'd already ordered some, but I told her, I said, yeah, I said I have some girls that I have to order from. So we'll have plenty of boxes of Girl Scout cookies around the house. That's the scary part of it. If you are looking for a new boat, by the way, Rodney Dangerfield's Caddy Shack boat is for sale in Maryland. So remember the movie Caddyshack? Well, if you want a piece of the history there, for vessel is listed for $129,000. So I guess it's not the big one that well, I guess it would be. Yeah, it's the one that Rodney was driving. It's not the little dinghy that it was Judge was had. It was it would be the bigger one that Rodney was driving. So yeah. Also in Monopoly, which had a game of Monopoly I think it's last weekend, and my youngest son, 11, whipped us. He amassed $40 million in property and money, and I'm like, how the heck? But yeah, everything worked out for him, so it was good. He had fun playing it. But they're talking about new pieces, so if you can get your, let me see if I can find that. They're talking about the voting is going along for potentials. Include emojis and hashtags. So you can actually, Rhode Island-based game maker Hasbro is asking internet to vote on a new game pieces for the latest edition of Monopoly, and none of the original pieces are safe. The Pawtucket-based company launching voting Tuesday on VoteMonopoly.com, allowing internet users to vote on 8 game pieces that will make it in the next edition of the game. It said the company said none of the current 8 pieces, Scotty Dog, Top Hat Car, Thimble, Boot, Wheelbarrow, Battleship, and Cat, are safe in the voting, which allows to include 56 potential new pieces. The proposed new pieces include emojis, a dinosaur, a hashtag, flip-flop, a TV, and an early 90s style cell phone and desktop computer. One of the games that we have has an Altoids. It almost looks like a little laptop, and it has Sedgway. So they have a digital monopoly, so which is kind of cool because you don't have to worry about having all handling the bank and handling money. But it only deals in millions and thousands, which makes it a lot easier to do it. And then you got little cards that you get, and you put them in this machine. And like when you got to pay somebody, you got put one card on one side, one card on the other, and one's a positive side, one's a negative side. And if you have to pay to somebody, it deducts it from the one and gives it to the other. So it's actually pretty neat. I wish there was a way where you didn't have to put the cards in, where you could just push a button and say, 4 pays 2, whatever, and it would be faster. And you could just have one do it. But I mean, I do enjoy playing the game, but it usually just Monopoly takes too long, and they always say, the game always ends up with somebody flipping the board over. It's kind of hard to flip over a board like for a digital Monopoly because all you got is the 4 game pieces on it. I mean, you can put houses and stuff on them, but nobody ever I haven't seen too many people play to where they get to that, because if they do, it's like one time you land on it, you're done. So here is another reason why I don't want to live in Australia. It says, huge spider takes down a snake in Australia, battle to the death. Imagine a spider. So this Australian woman captured footage of an epic battle to the death between a massive spider and the snake that became entangled in its web. You imagine a spider that's big enough to take down a snake. That's freaky. I rather not. They had also another snake story that came out of Australia, and this one really freaked me out when I saw it. But it said that it was they had to have the reptile catchers come in and removed a venomous snake from a little girl's nightlight. Apparently, a highly venomous brown snake found dangling over a child's bed. Imagine that. That's scary. It was in there for probably the heat of the light. But yeah, I'm sorry. Nope. We had scorpions and stuff down in Texas, but nothing. Not a snake that can kill you. Here's a going out on a kind of a crazy story here. This is out of the Mirror UK, but it's a video. You can go on and watch it online and tell me what you think about it. It says, demon-possessed doll blinks and nods its head before entire room shakes, leaving the young girl terrified. They show the little girl playing with her doll, and the head starts moving around. She takes off. But then they also show later where she is coloring, and all the papers go flying off the table, and then the whole room shakes like they're having an earthquake. Got to do is check it out. Kind of weird. Talking about haunted places. I really think, we've had paranormal activity at the golf course. They're going to start doing construction here soon. So I would bet that the paranormal activity goes up. So we'll have to do is I'll have to go in and check it at night, see if we get anything out of it. But it's that time. It's a fast hour. So, everybody be safe. If you see something, say something. Remember, support your police. I do. They're out there doing a job for you. So, well, everybody have a great night. And we'll see you tomorrow on Night Talk with Joe Rocks. And I'll be back on Friday with Straight Talk. So, be safe.